get to upgrade. I'm very excited about this. Are you as excited as I am?
I'm probably, yes, I'm really excited. You know, it's a true 8-core, tons of horsepower. As powerful as Xeons that have been out for a couple of years now, but half the price.
Hold on a minute. Did Asus pay for that product placement? What's going on here? People are going to comment about this. Did you put that there? Who paid for that?
Do you not see the EVGA right in front of it too?
No, oh, there's the EVGA there. But the EVGA is only a tiny little manual. You can't see the words and everything.
Well, they didn't have the box art ready for us, apparently. Okay, they had that one ready.
There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me just wear this on my head. Because, there we go. Yes. Oh, jeez.
So, we've been playing with the X99 for a couple of weeks now, and we haven't been able to tell you guys, but from the horse's mouth, X99 has been a bit rushed, and Intel really doesn't have their act together as much as they usually do. I mean, that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, Intel sort of rushed things. We were getting microcode updates literally yesterday. So, that's crazy.
Yeah, we were installing new UEFI updates, and I guess the EVGA had a few issues with memory timings and that sort of thing. Not memory timings, the memory frequencies. When you overclocked, the memory frequencies didn't want to overclock as well, and then they had to do an update because it wasn't EVGA's fault. It was something that was wrong with the I guess this UEFI or whatever, and just new U-code, right? Just all kinds of stuff.
Well, this platform is DDR4, which is crazy, and so that starts at 2133. So, like, with DDR3, it starts, 1066, 1333, depending on some things. This starts at 2133, and we have day one launch kits that'll hit 3 gigahertz, 3000. And now, that's nothing special.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the consensus out there is that some of those launch kits are just crazy, and maybe over the next year or so they're going to get toned down. And if you buy a 2133 kit, you can maybe hit 2400, but not 29 whatever or 3000 or 3200. But right now it's kind of like the Wild West as far as DDR4 goes.
Yes, and so if you get a DDR4 kit right now, chances are you can hit 24, 26, 3000.
You hear that train? That's the train coming to bring all our shirts to town. I had to. We got a bunch of new shirts, guys. Well, actually, we've got some new. We'll be working on some of your new designs that you guys submitted in the forums. You guys are awesome. So we're coming back to X99. We're taking a little break right now, even though we just got started. We gave you a little teaser, but we have some new colors. So if some of you guys prefer like the indigo color, I've really been loving this indigo color. So we updated. That's we got the large sizes and all that stuff as well. So. The indigo color, we've got that in a few different shirts, and I need to upload the pictures to the website because, yeah, they're there. But we do have more indigo color. I really like it. Anyway, the next thing that's going on is Digital Storm, right? So Digital Storm, of course, they're going to have their own versions of the X99 platform stuff coming out. But they actually contacted us and said, hey, you guys are really cool. We like what you're doing. We like your community a lot. And we want to help give back to your community because they've been really cool. So what Digital Storm is going to do for the next several weeks, I think it's 5 weeks, maybe, don't hold me to this, but each week we're going to be giving away one video game on Steam to one lucky winner. And all you have to do is just go to the link that's on the screen. And once you get there, you can enter multiple times. We're using the same platform we use for the car giveaway, but you can enter once if you're a subscriber to Digital Storm on YouTube. That's one entry. And then if you're a subscriber to us on YouTube, that's an entry. And then you can just follow all of us on Twitter. Those are all extra entries. And then, following us on Facebook or whatever, that's an extra entry. Instagram, if you follow Digital Storm on Instagram, that's an extra entry. And even on Twitch TV, that's an extra entry. So lots of ways to enter. And the way this is going to work is any game you want. If you're the winner, you tell Digital Storm what game that you want, and they'll just give it to you. They'll gift it to you right there on Steam. So this is going to be awesome for the next several weeks. And special thanks to Digital Storm. Check out their systems. We're just doing this for the community. They didn't pay for any advertising or anything, but they do make extremely clean systems, and most of their systems come from their factory overclock. So overclocked by pros. If I was going to go with a system, it'd be one that I would consider for sure. I usually build my own systems, and I know a lot of you guys out there do. You do pay a premium for a custom system, but some people just want it done. They want it done right the first time. They want to get on with their life and get back to work. So there you go. Digital Storm. Thanks very much for the contest. Best of luck to everybody. let's get back to X99. This is kind of a celebration of X99 right now. So, Wendell, X99. What else do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the actual platform and what it all looks like, as far as the CPU layout?
Yes. Okay. So X99 is a new CPU socket, and it's especially confusingly named because Intel's like, oh, 1155, 1156, and then 1150, and so it's like, oh, what's happening? This is also named 2011, but it's 2011-3, and it's completely incompatible with the 2011 of the 3930, 3960, 4960 that you guys may be used to. Quad channel is here to stay. It's quad channel DDR4 instead of quad channel DDR3, so that's a thing. And the big thing with this is power delivery. So it turns out when you have 8 cores in a chip running at 3.5, 4.4 in our case, it's gonna drink the power.
Yeah, and one of the things that you really need to do, if a lot of you guys are going to immediately upgrade, if you're building a workstation PC or something like that, you need to make sure that you have a really good power supply. And if your power supply is a couple years old, and maybe you bought like an awesome 850 watt power supply like 2 years ago, well, those things, the efficiency goes down over time, and the just the quality goes down over time. Like, I wouldn't keep a power supply for more than 5 or 6 years, no matter how good it was. That's just the way it works. But you may want to consider buying a new power supply, especially if you're going to build a system based on this platform. I don't think anybody's going to get a system based on this platform for anything less than like $1,800. I would not. That's like the starting point for me for a good system built on this platform. So if you're going to be spending that much money, spend an extra 150 to 200 and get a real nice power supply to make sure that you get clean power to your CPU, because yes, it is going to drink a lot of power, and you're going to need to make sure that you're ready for it.
Yeah, we had some older power supplies in testing, and just natural aging, nothing wrong with the power supply. It had a little bit of ripple, and when we would double click on ADA and it would ramp up the CPU speed, the power supply just couldn't move fast enough to go from a relatively idle state to a, oh my goodness, the CPU needs 1,000 watts of power type situation. Not really. I mean, it's not really 1,000 watts, but you'll see in the marketing material for a lot of these motherboards, it's like this can deliver this many watts to the CPU socket, and this can do this, and we're still talking about 145 watt thermal design power, or a TDP, thermal dissipation, or thermal design, whatever you want to call that, and that's all still in play, but that's really more about heat dissipation more than how much power the CPU actually uses. The CPU really, it's not really much more power than we were seeing with the top end parts a couple generations ago. But the other thing you got to consider is that this architecture has sort of been floating around in Xeon territory for a while, because there's 8, 12, 15 core Xeons you can get right now. A lot of those are clocked slower. Like the mainstream parts are around 2 gigahertz, but a lot of server suppliers are not supplying Xeon parts that have a higher TDP than 95 watts. I mean, you can get workstation class parts that are 135 watts, 140 watts, something in that neighborhood. But with this, it's even a little bit higher, and it's a little bit more on the heat dissipation side, and a lot of OEMs have not wanted to touch that because they didn't want to do that much heat dissipation in a server chassis. And that also really hurts you when you're in like a data center situation and you want a 1 or 2U server and you want to fill a rack with those. The thing's going to put out more heat than the data center can deal with. And one of the big pushes on the previous 2011 platform was that it wouldn't produce nearly as much heat as the previous 771 platform for Xeon, and blah blah blah. Anyway, that's just a long-winded way to say that this thing drinks the power. They have really pushed the envelope as far as possible in terms of power delivery on this, and it pays off on the 8 core parts that you can hit 4.4 gigahertz on, and it's actually stable. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, that's 900 megahertz above the turbo, and we might be able to even take it farther than that with really good cooling. All that was achieved in the studio with a Noctua cooling unit. And that's not even the biggest Noctua cooling unit. Is that what we were using, right? You're using the Noctua there, right? Or are you using the Corsair? I forget.
We've got, well, it's actually, we've done a lot of testing. Right now, my favorite all-in-one liquid cooler is the NZXT X61, and that has worked really well on our test bench. But we also have the Noctua. I think it is the NDH15. I think it is. That's not the biggest one, is it? It's one of the bigger ones, though.
Yeah, the 15. Yeah, is the big guy.
And that one has hit 4.4 gigahertz as well. So we've got this Define. I don't know if you can see it. It might be slightly off frame over here, but this Fractal Define R4. And if you can see the Asus board, it's got sort of the white accents. It's black and white. It's just strictly black and white. So in the Define R4, it looks really cherry. The thing that's over here is using the Noctua, and that worked out pretty well in very long workloads where it was running for a very long time. The Noctua got a little warm, but overall, in terms of just random heat production from upping the voltage and overclocking and things like that, this platform, if we compared it, it's not really a comparison on Haswell, except that Haswell puts out a lot of heat, you don't get a lot out of it. This puts out a fair bit of heat as well, but I think it's proportionally less heat, and the cooling solutions seem to be able to deal with it better.
Yeah, it seems to do a better job. Here in this studio, I have a Neptune 280L from Cooler Master, and that thing is freaking ridiculous. I've just finished doing a review on that, but I decided to hold off on the review because I want to do a few tests with the X99 platform here. And my CPU is probably going to be in like tomorrow. Windows got his CPU earlier, but we're going to have a CPU in tomorrow, and then I'll be able to test it out a little bit more. But that thing's actually doing a really good job with heat dissipation. I was able to take the i5 4690K up to 5.1 gigahertz under a ridiculous 1.4 something volts, which you should never do, but it worked and did not overheat. It was only like it was under 80 degrees. It was like 79 degrees. I was like, all right, sure, 79 degrees, whatever you want to do. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. Anyway, now I'm talking about the parts. Let's cover the actual parts that are coming out, shall we?
Yes.
We have 3 new SKUs, and what's interesting before the baseline SKU before was the 4820, and then before the 3820 and all that. Those were always quad core parts, and the way Intel always did this, they had a quad core part, and then they had a 6 core part, and then they had a 6 core extreme part, which was really just the same as the 6 core part for around 500 or 600 bucks. But they would make you pay $1,000 to $1,200 for it, and it was really the same part, just massively overclocked. Maybe a little bit more cache. Yeah, a little bit more cache. Yeah, but this time, what they've done is they've made the 5820 a 6 core part, and the only difference between that and looks like the 5930, if they've got the same amount of cache, just a slight frequency advantage on the 5930 and more PCI Express lanes, as you guys can see here. So you've got 28 PCI Express lanes with the 5820 and 40 PCI Express lanes, which is the maximum that we're seeing right now with the 5930K. Now, if you are going to build a system that is if you don't need all the PCI Express lanes, you might be just fine to go with the 5820 because the price on that is $389. That's going to be a ridiculous gaming rig. It's going to be faster than any of the i7 parts on the Haswell platform. Maybe not fast, compared as far as you're talking like price to performance ratio, but still really fast. And you're still going to be able to get your work done. You got a lot more PCI Express lanes than Haswell that tops out at 16. So that's like your entry-level part, and it's still looking pretty damn good. You step up, you get 100 extra megahertz and the extra PCI Express lanes. That's really good if you're going to be running, lots of expansion cards, more than one graphics card, a RAID expansion card, or something like that. A variety of different things that could be really handy. But they finally given us a reason to spend $1,000. Now the Extreme Series part that's going to be $1,000, the 5960X, is an octa-core. So we finally have a true desktop 8-core from Intel. And it also has 20 megabytes of that shared, what do they call it, the super cache or the magic cache? It's the Intel shared cache. It's got a name. I can probably scroll and find it.
The there Intel we go. Crack cache.
It's just a shared L3 cache. The crack cache. They have a name for it. A smart cache. That's it. So they have 20 megabytes of that smart cache, and that smart cache, here's a diagram of the CPU on the screen right now. As you can see on the top, you've got your instructions. They all come in there and they kind of chill out. Then you got your uncore, then your IO all hangs out there, and in the middle you've got your cores on either side. The shared L3 cache is in the middle that all the cores can get at, and then at the bottom there we have our memory controller. And you know, it doesn't say here, but I believe the fully integrated voltage regulator. Where's that? Is that on the bottom or the top? I'm not exactly sure. I wish they put that in the diagram, but
yeah, just like Haswell,
sure.
this is the fully integrated voltage regulator.
It's got the fiber, so that actually moves more things onto the CPU. Intel's been moving more and more stuff onto the CPU, so I mean, it does. I guess it does up the heat a little bit, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. With this platform, I'm seeing lower temperatures than I am with Haswell, which is kind of blowing my mind. Even with the overclocks, you know, even with almost a 900 megahertz, 1 gigahertz overclock, it's pretty ridiculous. So we've got some pretty interesting new parts here, and I think that we're going to see a lot of people going for that 8-core. As far as the 8-core versus the 6-core, well, the 8-core is really going to be better for, you know, if you have a workstation. If you're running Premiere and that sort of thing, you're going to see a decent jump. Stuff that's optimized for multiple cores. If you're building a gaming rig, I mean, price to performance Haswell, or hell, price to performance, even the AMD 8-core parts, really. Just put a really beefy graphics card in there and you've got the best price to performance ratio. But this versus Haswell, I don't know. Maybe if you really want the extra speed, go for the 5820, but I would only condone the extreme 5960 for like people who are doing professional work or people who use their machine as their livelihood. You know what I mean? That's basically how I can justify an investment like that. It's my livelihood. This is what I do. Or maybe you're making an investment in your future. Hey, I'm going to build video games or I'm going to edit 4K video for a living or something like that. Then maybe the 5960X is the way to go. I don't know. Which one are you going to go with?
The whole $1,000 part thing is just, it really hurts. I really don't like it. But having the experience on the workstation side, you know, the Unicorn Xeon that's been out forever is the 2687W. And hang on one second, I'll tell you when that came out. Yeah.
Put two of those in a system and you're really good to go.
So the Xeon E5 2687W. It's 20 megs of cache, 3.1 gigahertz stock, 3.8 turbo. So it's a little different than this extreme. That came out Q1 of 2012. That is an 8-core 16-thread part, and the tray price on that from Intel, like the standard OEM price, like the retail price, was $1,885 for the chip. $2,000 pretty much. This extreme part, and you know, I've actually put some servers together and workstations together that had that chip, and oh, it stung buying it. But they're so fast, it's crazy. And this desktop part is basically the same thing.
It looks a lot like it. It's like the 8-core version of it. I mean, God, it looks so similar on paper.
This one would not work in a dual socket motherboard. So there's that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's basically the same. Now that the TDP on that one's 150 watt. So, you know, you pretty much only saw it in workstations, and that's what the W meant on the 2687. But there are people out there that were running non-rack configuration servers with this. There are people that made motherboards to do that, and that worked basically okay. So, you know, paying $2,000 for that chip since Q1 of 2012, here we are in 2014, and it's basically half the price now. That, to me, still sort of tracks with Moore's Law. I mean, if Intel can get away with charging that, and now here we are a couple of years later, and it's, you know, $1,000 instead of $2,000. That's okay. Historically, it's always been the case that the i7 was the way better deal than the Xeon, and lately the delineation there has sort of gone away. Like the i7 is a better deal than the Xeon, but not an insanely way better deal. And so in this case, I think Intel's going to lower the prices on these Xeon parts. We don't know what that's going to be yet, but the thing that you get with these Xeon parts is that you can also run them in a dual socket configuration. At least the E5s, the E5s that begin with a 2.
All right, for me, you know, as far as this new platform goes, I'm still going to probably end up recommending the Haswell i5s and also the AMD 8 cores and the AMD 6 cores for most gamers out there on a budget. For people, you know, who are building workstations, I am definitely going to be recommending this, and I'm going to be using this in my own upcoming build. I'm probably going to be using the extreme part because I'm crazy, and I want to be able to have layers of 4K video and not worry about it. Right now, whenever we get like a lot of 4K videos and we're doing a lot of cuts and that sort of thing, it can stutter a little bit. Even with my, you know, I've got socket 2011 right here, even with that, it starts to choke a little bit. And on Jimmy's PC, Jimmy's been over there trying to edit with a 2500K. I don't know why he's doing that, but the 4K video, he's just like, well, I'm just kind of guessing with these cuts, and I'm going to click render and see what it looks like. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. So maybe we'll have to, we might have to move the Socket 2011 over and have that be our secondary editing rig and all that. But I want to know from you guys, who's building with this platform? What are you building? What are you doing with it? Let us know in the comments, especially on our website. It'd just be, I'm just curious to know, and I'd also love to see some pictures. And I'd like to know what motherboard you guys are going with. Are you going with Asus? Are you going with ASRock? Are you going with Gigabyte? Are you going with EVGA? Are you going with MSI? Are you going with BioStar? Who are you using for your motherboard and why? I'm just very curious. So drop all that stuff over on the forum.
I'll give you a preview of some of the stuff. So right away, we're going to have reviews of the Asus X99 Deluxe. That's going to be available launch day. And we're also going to have a review of this EVGA Micro ATX, which is also going to be available launch day from what we understand. We've also got an upcoming review of some parts from ASRock and MSI and maybe Gigabyte.
Yeah, maybe Gigabyte. So, I talked to Gigabyte today. Maybe the guy was out of the office, but everyone's at PAX right now. So, oh well, everybody's at PAX. But yeah, we've also got the big guy, the EVGA X99 Classified. We did some footage on this, but we haven't tested it yet because our the CPU will not be in until tomorrow-ish, and then I'll get down to business testing this thing out, and I'll let you guys know how this is as well. So we've got a lot of X99 parts to go through. It's going to be
there is going to be a lot of stuff available launch day, but because this was kind of rushed and because of Intel thing, this, that, and the other, you're going to see a lot of parts that are not available on launch day, and so it's going to be a week, 2 weeks, a month before everything really comes out.
I cannot believe that EVGA had a micro ATX part available on launch. That is EVGA. That's crazy. Because I figured that it would take a lot of extra time for R&D because this is a massive socket. It's totally new. You're gonna have to mess with your T-topology a lot, and they've got a micro ATX part. I think they're the only ones that I'm aware of right now, unless one of the other companies has one that hasn't notified us or we haven't seen on yet. But they're the only ones I know of that have a micro ATX part. So crazy.
Yeah, in terms of, I'm aware of another micro ATX board that is in the final stages, but is not in production yet.
Yeah, it won't be out for launch.
Yeah, no, it won't be out for launch.
Yeah, so only one for launch.
Good Lord, it's crazy. Now, in terms of productivity, like 4K productivity, 20% faster across the board on the 4960X, and that tracks. That makes sense. And this is over, 4960 territory. Yeah. So if you're on something older, it's going to be crazy. The other thing that's blown me away is I use virtual machines for a lot of stuff, and so using tools like Yauman and Grunt to deploy virtual machines, like I will be going all Mozart on the keyboard, and then something happens, and it's like, oh, I have to rebuild this, and then I hit a button, and then a bunch of my virtual machines are destroyed, and then a bunch of new virtual machines are created based on my template. My face has melted at how fast that is on this platform.
Oh man, yeah, I brought that graph up there on the screen. This is all the 20% faster, and the 3D rendering 32% faster, and of course the game physics are up to 14% faster. That's all based on Intel stuff, and we'll be doing a lot of our own tests, but we want to know exactly what you guys want to see in the tests, because I have limited time, Wendell has limited time, and we don't have a million people on staff, so we want to make sure that we only do the tests that you want to see for our own sanity, and also just so that we're not wasting our time making, doing tests that no one cares about. Like, do you guys care about Cinebench, or would you guys rather see real-world Premiere tests? Do you guys care about, Future Mark, or would you guys rather see something else? Do you guys care about 3D Mark, or would you rather see actual game benchmarks? I am probably in the boat where I'd rather see the real-world stuff, but some people like to know those numbers just for a baseline. So what would you like us to spend our time on?
The other thing with X99 is Plexter is doing a weekly SSD giveaway. The details for that are in the contest section of the forum. Basically, you just go there and look at it, and you can enter the contest every week, and they're giving away an SSD, every week through the rest of the year, from what I understand. So you actually have a pretty good chance of winning an SSD if you go do that. So that would be a pretty good thing to do.
Especially our viewers, because you guys have a bonus for being awesome, right? I'm not sure if that's official or not, but should be. All right, so there's a couple more things to talk about with X99, and then we're going to go back into the rest of the tech and you know, just talk about all the other things that have happened. But let's talk just briefly about our overclocking experiences. Now, you hit 4.4 on everything that you tested, right? With the Extreme Series part.
We have we have 2 chips right now, and both of them hit 4.4. But from talking to everybody, and these are not retail chips. They're like pre-retail. They're not supposed to be cherry picked. And talking with everybody under the sun that we can talk to under NDA, it looks like 4.2, maybe 4.3 is middle of the road for the X part. And, you know, 4.4, 4.5 is sort of the upper end of things. But a 4.2 overclock for being the middle of the road, that's pretty good.
Yeah, especially when you consider that's almost a gigahertz over what you know, the turbo is. So pretty good for an 8-core part. The last thing I want to mention is these also have Thunderbolt 2. So we're going to get the ridiculous speeds of Thunderbolt 2. I'm definitely going to get you know, a board that has Thunderbolt 2 compatibility built in, but it's built into the chipset, which is really nice. So
most
that's
boards
going to be really good.
Do not have the Thunderbolt port on board. You have to get an add-in card.
They have the header.
Yes, we've seen the connectivity on both ASRock and Asus so far, and that's good. So if you're looking for Thunderbolt peripherals, there you go.
Should be awesome. Well, look, here's a bunch of motherboards that are going to be available. Plus many more. Gigabyte ASRock, Gigabyte Asus ASRock, MSI, EVGA, and many more. I was just reading too fast, but yeah. There's the Vitality series. Where's that one in the wild? I haven't seen that one in the wild. All right, I guess that's pretty much it. Lots of DDR4 out there on the market. The DDR4 is going to be expensive. This is an expensive platform. It does not make excuses. And you know what I'm going to say? If you guys are budget-minded, and you're looking for something, you know, from AMD, just keep your eyes right freaking here, because very soon we'll have some stuff to talk about with AMD as well. It's not going to be as ridiculously crazy as this, but it's not going to be $1,000. We're talking, you know, under $200 for most of the parts. But just bear with us. Soon, very soon, we will know.
Things are getting crazy. We don't even know what's happening. We've got a guy in the office here who has got a machine. I think it's socket 1366, but it was really nice socket 1366 way back in the day. He has changed his video card twice, and I think added some RAM, and it's basically been fine. It's the over 5-year platform, or the 5-year platform. 2011-3 is the next 5-year platform.
Yep, there you go. All right, you ready to talk about some regular hardware stuff that's non X99, shall we?
Yay, even more hardware.
Yeah, let's go on and talk about, well, there's an unofficial Windows XP service pack. So this dude, what's his name? I've already, Harkaz, I guess that's his name on the internet. He's just a dude from Greece, goes by that handle. He's basically taken all of the service packs since Service Pack 3, and he's putting them together into a Service Pack 4 type thing. Plus, it's going to be, you know, compatible with some third-party updates and that sort of thing. Microsoft does not support this, but people are keeping Windows XP alive. I did not anticipate, you know, Windows XP. People are still using it. I mean, it's got a huge, I mean, 24.82% share on the worldwide OS usage. That's ridiculous. According to net market share. That seems really high to me. I don't know.
The anti-piracy stuff in Windows 7 is too good, and Windows Vista is too crappy. So it's not very surprising to me.
But yeah, I guess. Wow. All right.
Now, the crazy thing is that Linux is going to, like, those people are going to go straight from Windows to Linux, probably, because Linux is almost there.
You know, I was reading an article lately, and it's not going to be in this episode or anything like that, but it's Linus Torvalds was talking about the desktop is the next place that he wants to take over, and he's kind of kicking himself in the ass for not taking over the desktop because it was obvious, and Microsoft kept, you know, just completely messing up, and there was a lot of opportunity there. But right now, he said he thinks in order to take over the desktop, what he needs to do is focus on servers and workstations, and then that'll trickle down into the end user. And I think that's genius, because if you look at almost every industry out there, the people, the enthusiasts are the ones, or the enthusiasts and the people who create workstations are the people who need the technology first, need the features first, and then that always trickles down into the mainstream stuff. You see that in the automotive industry, where like the NASCARs and that sort of thing, they come out with all these newfangled ideas and features for their cars, and then that trickles over into production models that you see from Ford and GMC and Toyota and everybody else. Same thing with with gamers and people who need workstations on the PC side. So I think he's going to be. I think they've got the right idea with Linux. They're targeting the right audience, and as far as that goes, and then we also have Steam pushing for more Linux support. Good Old Games has just added Linux support. I'd say Linux in a few years may be quite interesting. We just need a solution for the productivity crowd, like something that will compete with the Creative Suite. Or Adobe needs to stop being an idiot, or stop being idiots. Stop being Adobe is one person now. Adobe, stop being such an idiot and give us Creative Suite on the platform we want on Linux. That would be great. Anyway, that was my little rant right there.
In that same vein, though, Valve just this week released their tool for translating DirectX games into OpenGL.
Ooh.
And it's really good. Really good.
OpenGL's had a lot of problems over the years, so I hope they can get back on kind of the right track. Get back on the right track! I'll give someone a piece of gum if they can name that reference. First person to do it on the forum. A piece of bubble gum, I'll mail it to your house. And it won't be laced with much.
It's not, I think it's really, like, if you look at it, it looks like they totally have AMD in mind and AMD's new platform. And so while it is OpenGL, I suspect in 6 months it's going to be AMD's,
Mantle.
sort of hybrid architecture, Mantle 2.0, Mantle next gen, whatever. And to get there from where what Valve has provided is a much shorter journey than getting from nothing to what Valve has. Valve has been working on this. They've been working on this instead of Half-Life 3, as it turns out.
Everything's getting closer to the hardware right now. We've got the DirectX, the next version of DirectX. Microsoft was showing some demos of that, and they're saying like, hey, look how much of an improvement this is because it's much closer to the hardware, and that's always been the goal, is to get as close to the actual hardware as you can. So Mantle's doing it first. Intel's got some interest in Mantle. Our sources at AMD said that yes, this is completely like something that was told to me like in passing in a hallway from some guy who was half drunk, but he was like, yeah, man, Intel is totally going to be using Mantle. And I was like, really? He goes, oh, yeah, the talks are already finished and it's happening. So I don't know anything about it, but I just heard it from a drunk guy in an elevator or something somewhere in Texas. I don't know. But yeah, you guys heard it here second or third. I don't know where you might have heard it first. All right.
Top of the moon.
All right, let's talk about Seagate's 8 terabyte hard drives. How many planners this thing has? It doesn't even say in the article here, but yep, 8 terabyte hard drives. Right there they are. You guys can see the technology keeps getting better and better, and they're able to cram more planners into the same amount of space. So that's basically what's happened here. I'm very scared of 8 terabyte hard drives because, I mean, I know they've got a lot of, they're partnering up and they've got a lot of, solutions. They're working together with CleverSafe again, but I'm going to need to see this in practice because a lot of the even the 4 and the 6 terabyte drives just have a much higher failure rate than like 2 and 3 terabyte drives. So once I see this in the wild and it's a good thing, then maybe I'll get a few of them. I don't know.
So far, the Hitachi, like never would have thought, but in our sort of informal testing, Hitachi has been really good for sort of enterprise-ish near-line workloads. Not as good as serial attached SCSI, but when you need terabytes and terabytes of space, it's really, the failure rate is just damn scary when you've got a bunch of drives.
This hard drive right here is from, it was like 2012, the 7K1000 from Hitachi. That's been the most reliable hard drive I have ever owned in my entire life. I've put it into like 16 different systems. It's traveled with me. It's traveled with me from New York to Florida I think I took it out west for a while. It's been like in 4 or 5 different cities in Kentucky as well. And I keep transferring it from machine to machine, reinstalling stuff on it. And it's that one. There's an extra 1 terabyte hard drive right now on my workstation behind me. And it's that drive that's been around forever, and it still runs at a very good temperature, runs better than my brand new Seagates and stuff. That hard drive is ridiculous. So yeah, I've got a lot of faith in Hitachi. If they can pull that hard drive off, and it never clicked, never made any noises, it's just been solid as hell. So
that's funny. I believe the bank of like 10 that is being tested right now is the 7K4000, and so it's probably the same family. That's awesome. That's good to know. Sort of
Yeah,
anecdotal, but
yeah. All right, we got more X99. Sorry. So if you guys thought it was over, screw you. It's coming back with a vengeance. The X99. This is the OC formula. I just want to show you guys some of the boards that are being leaked. I mean, Intel is freaking out, and everyone's freaking out. Stop leaking motherboards. But hey, there's pictures on the internet. We didn't put these on the internet, but hell, we're going to talk about them. And plus, by the time we release this, it'll be, the NDA is over. But this is the X99 OC formula from ASRock. We saw a picture of the which one was it? The Fatality as well, but there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some Samsung DDR4 modules. Now these are going to be the first 64 gigabyte. It looks like they're also going to have 128 gigabyte modules soon. They're basically stacking things onto the DIMMs. So they got this new technology where they can stack. I believe it's 3 or 4 layers of stuff on there. It's pretty crazy. And we saw some stuff from ADATA at Computex that was doing something similar. They were staggering and stacking a lot of their, a lot of the memory modules. So it was pretty interesting. But they were able to fit a ton of memory on there. So pretty interesting there. Just stuff to look at. Yeah.
I need a ton of memory. I've got places to go and people to be.
Exactly. I've been feeling the pains. I've got 32 gigabytes of memory in that thing, and I've actually been running out of memory because of all this 4K video editing and all that nonsense. So, I mean, editing these road trips and stuff, and it just... Then memory's like, hey, you got any more memory? We've hit 32 gigabytes. What are you going to do? So it's like, oh, man.
The other thing that we're seeing with these platforms are multiple M.2 slots, which is awesome. Although you can't do RAID with that yet. But can you imagine a RAID?
Software.
Well, you could do a software RAID, but can you imagine a 2 gigabyte per second software RAID of 2 512 gig M.2 drives? That would be a thing.
You know what's going into my system? I'm going to put that OCZ Revo drive right in the system because that thing's like 1.8, and it's not quite 2, but it's 1.8, so it's pretty damn fast. And the IOPS on that are like 180,000 or something stupid like that. I hope it lasts, a good long time. When things are that ridiculously fast, it's like this thing is just going to explode. But it's been doing pretty good so far. But yeah, that's going in there. It's like it's just waiting for me to build my workstation. That's going to be a fun video to make. All right, I think I'm done with hardware for today. We've talked about it just plenty enough. Let's go ahead and talk about some science for a moment, shall we?
Science.
Science. What's the song? I don't even know.
I can only think of the Weird Science theme, but that was a fun movie.
The handheld reusable DNA sequencer. This thing's about the size of a brick. It's made by a bunch of guys in a university in New Zealand. And it basically can sequence DNA in about an hour. That's pretty freaking ridiculous. I mean, how does this even work? These articles are way too short to tell you exactly how it works, so I'm not even going to try to get into it, but it will sequence your DNA in an hour.
Well, just a few years ago, we were in a situation where, people were spending weeks to sequence the human genome, and, it was a race. So that was a fun story.
Yeah. All right, let's get really small for a little bit. We're going to talk about DARPA. DARPA has a few things going on this week, and I'm going to admit something, and it's probably because of the Chimera right here. I'm inhaling this Chimera. Yeah, it's delicious. So thanks to Chicago, Illinois, for producing this good stuff. Anyway, I actually like DARPA. Is that bad? Is that like a bad thing to like them?
DARPA brought us the internet.
I like DARPA. Well, they make a lot of technology that scares people. You know what I mean? And they work with the military a lot, and they work with the government a lot. And people who are conspiracy theorists are like, oh, it's bad. But I like the fact that they are making progress, scientific progress, and I like the fact that they are really pushing the boundaries on a lot of things. So this particular article right now is they are trying to just create a new manufacturing process that's 100,000 times smarter than the current state-of-the-art technology. That's a bit ridiculous. I mean, how the hell is that even possible? It's basically like they're going to be assembling atoms together, and when you start to do things at such a small scale, you deal with quantum properties. We're talking like being able to put things together without using glue. We're talking about like, it's basically, stuff like this could revolutionize several different industries. And right now, none of this stuff is done right now, but they are working on it. You know, they're working on this technology. So
You guys have all seen this before. It was on Star Trek, and you know when Geordi LaForge whipped out a whatever, and it was a laser, and he pointed it at something, and then all of a sudden it was joined together without a seam. Well, that's what they're building.
yeah, that they're working on this. They're trying to make it happen. So it could be
Also,
pretty insane.
this the physics of this being able to do this type of manipulation will also lead to 3D printers that print at the molecular level, which will totally revolutionize everything at that point. At that point, you'll be like printing full appliances that you can't tell were 3D printed.
Well, not only that, but you'll be okay. So you'll be able to print your full appliances. You could let's say you have food replicators now, and you could print whatever you want. It would be, since they're building it from like the molecular level. I mean, maybe it would be like completely healthy. Who knows? I don't even know. Would that fix world hunger? I don't know. But yeah, like 3D food printers that do crazy things like that. Another thing that DARPA is doing right now is they are working on memory prosthetics. So this, we could have a lot of fun with this, because right now, they're basically the reason they've been doing this, or the research they've been working together with like some some war veterans who have memory loss and that sort of thing. And they've been working on technologies to help them restore their active memory. It's basically like their RAM, like it restores that part of their brain. But they're working on that as well. They're working on the interface between, like brains and like memory. And that could be interesting, because they could use that technology to give you all kinds of fun memories. I mean, if they're able to crack that, and there's a lot of different, initiatives going on right now that are trying to map the brain and figure out how the brain works and figure out how to possibly install, hey, I'd like to learn piano today. Well, let's just download it and install it to my brain. So the fact that DARPA's working on this, it probably means it's going to get done a little faster, and it might be used for war type stuff.
The project is interesting when you look at it from a memory prosthesis standpoint. So they're not really trying to do anything too crazy here. It's people, there's, they talk about there's like 270,000 people that have a traumatic brain injury, and that has affected their memory, and there's not really a drug that helps deal with that. And so, all the mechanical parts of the brain are there. It's just storage is not there. And if they crack this nut, this will lead to the singularity, because I do believe that the first thing that we will figure out is storage more than processing. Now in the brain, we don't really know mechanically the difference between storage and processing. They're really the same thing, a chemical reaction, at least based on what we know right now, and we don't know enough. So if they figure out the memory prosthesis, it will lead to a processing prosthesis, and it will lead to a point where we're able to replicate consciousness inside a computer by just copying a brain into a computer. But the first step is the memory interface, and this is the first step on that project. So from that sense, it's exciting, but for the end of humanity, that's also scary.
Yeah, let's talk about this in a 50-year scale. So I really like to imagine things. I like to think about things in the terms of like a book or just like a story. So let's say 50 years down the road, the singularity's occurred, right? We've got artificial intelligence that's as smart as us, or it's actually probably smarter because it can learn on its own. And then we have like an interface with the mind. So let's say that interface is either hackable, or maybe it can be changed through wirelessly. Of course, because as we get smaller, a lot of the cables and USB's biggest enemy is not another cable interface, it's wireless, right? So as we get smaller, everything's going to be wireless. What if we're wandering around and all the advertisers, let's talk about the advertisers. The advertisers can just be like, come and buy this. And they can implant this into your brain if you have one of these implants. What if that's the next step? Or what if you see something very heinous happen? Like you see a politician come out and like beat a child to death and then kill a seal with a shotgun, and then all of a sudden your brain just replaces that with like, hey, I just saw some guy eating an ice cream cone. That was great.
There was an episode of Doctor Who about
what
this.
What if, guys? Was there?
Yeah, it's the thing that led to Cybermen and then take over the universe, and I don't know, it was bad. It was really bad. Uh, the more of the story was, don't do that.
Well, by God, we're going to do it. And you know what else we're going to do? We're going to build killer robots. I cannot wait for killer robots. That's going to be a hell of a fight. So the UN is really cautioning people, and they're warning everyone that, hey, killer robots are right around the corner, and we've got to do something about this. But does the UN actually have any say in anything anymore? Is the UN anything more than just a group of people who gets together and says, hey guys, we're the UN, listen to us, and everyone else is like, no thanks, we're going to do our own thing. But the UN is there saying, no, you shouldn't have done that. I mean, I feel like the UN is like the UN is like the person who comes up later and hugs people and says, oh, we're sorry that the USA bombed you or whatever. Anyway, this thing is probably really making me say some things I shouldn't. But but yeah, we got killer robots right around the corner. And the UN is saying, hey, what's going on? Angela Kane, one of the UN representatives, she's one of the representatives for disarmament, has said, hey guys, we got to be careful about this. They're right around the corner. The technology is becoming ubiquitous. And we're at a point right now where we could have robots that are not controlled by any human being. And those robots could easily just commit war crimes all day long. And then who's going to be at fault? Really. So there's a lot of problems that could come from technology. And I want everyone out there to understand that I am not against technology. I just think we need to look at the whole picture. And even Elon Musk says, hey, we need to stand back and look at the whole freaking picture. We can't just, move forward blindly.
It just occurred to me, we've heard this argument somewhere before. And it's like, this all sounds really familiar. It's like we've got these machines capable of killing on the battlefield, and we didn't explicitly tell them to kill. Oh, it's nobody's fault, really. We've heard this argument before, and we've heard this argument before from Comcast and Time Warner with regard to Netflix's traffic. It's like, well, we're not throttling Netflix. We're just allowing it to become degraded. That's not us. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, if we can't get it right with watching movies on the internet, do you really think we'll get it right with killing people?
This is exactly the kind of thing that they want, because there's a whole bunch of people that have a slightly different tone to their skin and look different. They've got different facial hair, and they want them all dead. They don't want to take any responsibility for it. This is perfect. They're like, oh, the damn robots again. Oh, what do you want us to do? It's like, well, we didn't. The robots, they make their own decisions. What can we do? Sorry. That's exactly it's exactly the same parallel. Wow. That's kind of ridiculous.
And that's exactly how it's going to be. We're going to be like, we didn't do that. We just made some robots, and robots want freedom and democracy.
A healthy dose of freedom and democracy. That's the best smell at 5 in the morning. What's next on the list here? All right, let's go over ahead and talk about something a little nicer. There's an amputee, and I believe he's in the UK. Where is he from? I'm not sure. I think he's in the UK, but his name's Mark O'Leary. So Mark O'Leary must be from the UK. I'd say probably from Ireland, maybe not from Scotland, possibly from Wales. I don't know. Where's O'Leary from? Anyway, so Mark O'Leary, he's got one leg, but what they've done differently here, and this is at the North London Hospital, and they say they're transforming the lives of these amputees, but they have implanted like metal straight into the bone, and then it's like the metal extends through the end of the skin right there. So you actually have contact with the bone. And when you attach the leg, it's a really quick process. You just snap the leg on, snap it off, and then the vibrations from walking and that sort of thing are transferred into the bone, and the people can actually feel it. And Mark O'Leary, but why do I keep slipping into the accent whenever I say O'Leary? So Mark O'Leary there, he's very sing-songy, yes. Sorry about the accent. Everyone in Ireland right now is doing this, like, oh God, I wish you'd shut up. I hate this guy. I wish he would shut up. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. Tiny Tom Logan's got the real accent. I'm just an American fraud. But anyway, he said that it's transformed his life because now he can feel things, and also above and beyond that, the way it connects to the metal instead of just like the regular prosthesis just it adheres to the outside skin, and sometimes you get like blisters and that sort of thing. He said now he can walk a lot farther, and he even climbed Kilimanjaro and said that his only blisters were on his good foot, on his real foot, his existing foot. His prosthesis was like, oh, this is great. It's just hooked right to the metal, which is connected to the bone, and everything's great. So that's another step forward in prosthetic technology. That's pretty cool. I don't know.
That is pretty cool. That's give every people that need it, it's going to have a whole different quality of life. I mean, just even something. I mean, if you've ever gotten, you've ever stepped on a nail and had to deal with that, somebody that needs that type of prosthesis, it's a million times worse. And any technology that does something like this to improve the quality of life is definitely something we should put R&D dollars into.
Let's talk about games before I have to go get more beer. It's been a long day. Gaming time. Crytek. Guess what they said? They said that the Xbox One it sucks. That's word for word verbatim. Well, you know what? I'm just going to mention this and go on. And I also want to give a shout out to David DeFranco. So David DeFranco, on Twitter, like a couple of weeks ago while I was down there in Kentucky, and everyone remembers this. And I'm gonna do this right here live, man, because I want you to respond. So I said something. I said something inflammatory. I said, console peasants always say, "Hey, I have a $3,000 computer, but my Xbox is better." They always try to say that nonsense about having a $3,000 computer, and then my reply was like, "Keep flipping burgers and shut your mouth." And before I move on, let me let you guys know that I came from flipping burgers. I worked at McDonald's, so okay, I'm not like one of those bastards who just makes fun of people for having a minimum wage job. What I'm saying here is that if you have a minimum wage job, that's totally cool. Just don't go pretending that you have enough money to buy a $3,000 computer if you don't, just so you can prove a point about how the Xbox One is better. So Crytek has also corroborated my theory here that the Xbox One is inferior, saying that MSAA could not happen on the Xbox. They're saying that the hardware just could not handle a lot of things they were doing. I really just wanted to bring that article up just so I could call out David DeFranco. So he replied to me and he was a little angry, saying like, man, basically I'm a jackass because I called gamers, because we're all just gamers, console gamers and PC gamers. We're all just gamers, but I called gamers peasants, and he took issue with that. And then it got a little worse because I was mean on the internet. I was having fun, man. And I don't think if he could hear my inflection, he would know I was just joking around and having a lot of fun. And even Barnacle and Timmy jumped in there like, "Hey, man, if you knew Logan, he's just being an ass right now. He's just being an idiot." But I called him and I say, "Listen, dude, if you really want to do this, let's have a conversation about this, and we can get down to the science." I feel, David DeFranco, most of your science was that I'm being mean and I'm being an ass. But I would love to have a debate with you, because we have some Kill Your Console videos coming up, and I think a debate between the two of us, you on the side of the gamer and the console gamer, but on the gamer, you're more of a gamer as in a larger sense, but I'm pretty much solely a PC gamer at this point. You versus me, we'll talk about it scientifically, like Ken Ham and and I'm not even going to go there, but we'll have Barnacle be the mediator, and we will do this, and it will really help our Kill Your Console videos. It will be amazing.
It will be just like peas and carrots.
This freaking argument has gone on forever, and everyone's like, we don't really want to have this argument anymore. And I think that there are still some things that need to be said about this argument. I am not over the console versus PC argument until everyone agrees that PC is superior, and the only reason that anyone would buy a console is because they only want one or two certain games, and because they're too lazy to work with the PC. That's the only thing that I'll accept. So bring it on, man. Come on. That's the reason I brought that article up. That was awful. All right. Next article on the list here. Let's just move right along. This pre-order bonus here for Assassin's Creed is hilarious. So if you pre-order the next Assassin's Creed game, which I think those things come out like every 3 months now. Every 3 months there's an Assassin's Creed game, right? Out there, Ubisoft, is that what you guys do? Every 3 months there's a new one, and each one gets a little shittier, but you don't care because you're making so much money.
That's Ubisoft.
Yeah, that's great, guys. You guys said you were going to do right. But anyway, if you pre-order, you get a bonus mission, which is pretty cool, and you get a pair of pants that increase your speed. You get a pair of pants. I thought it was a joke at first. Like when you pre-order a game, you get a pair of pants.
That would have been a really awesome troll. Unfortunately, it's not a troll.
Well, I want to know how good these pants are, Ubisoft, because if these pants are like epic tier pants, then we're going to have some problems, and there might be a lawsuit involved with our Epic Pants clothing line. Because you guys cannot give away Epic Pants. All right, by the way, if you guys buy pants from our store, our pants have a +20 to speed. Theirs only have a +10. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Ubisoft. All right, a couple more things on the list. There's a new Metro. Actually, not a new Metro. The old Metro has been made new again. That sounded biblical. There's a Metro 2033 Redux, and even Metro Last Light has a Redux. Sorry, guys. Redo. It's an old habit from playing old video games. Whenever there's Redux, I always just joke around and say Redux, but it's redo. So Metro 23 redo, and then there's a Metro Last Light redo, but the volumetric lighting and everything like that looks pretty snazzy. Very snazzy. As you guys can see here. Yeah, it's cool. The thing that's weird about this with me is, like, you know what? If you own the original game, it's not that different. They added a few new things. They updated a lot of the texture models. They updated a lot of the characters and that sort of thing. But it's still pretty much the same game as you play through it. It would have been nice if they really changed things, but they didn't. So if you own the original game, why can't we have like a major discount? Because these games are like $50 all over again. You guys are just trying to make your money again. You're adding some nice lighting effects and changing up the you know, the clothing and the skins, and you've got to just retested a few things. But come on, give us a.
I saw this,
yeah.
and the only thing I could think was, I wonder if how this will run on X99, because I wanted to turn it up all the way, and Metro in general was just like, no. Metro just hates everything. I mean, literally, it hates everything. All right, speaking of things that look amazing, this is the new Unreal Engine 4 demo with some rain and that sort of thing. And yeah, you know, these are static demos, so I'm not exactly sure how good things are going to look once you get into the final game. But you know, the quality of this is really up there. I don't know if you can expect this from a final game. And to be fair, you can do this kind of technology with a lot of current engines that are out there. You know, as long as you're making a very controlled demo like this. But it still looks pretty realistic to me. So there were some folks that did side-by-sides with Unreal Tournament, or the Unreal Engine 1 and Unreal Engine 4, and that really illustrates how far they've come with this engine. I mean, it's like looking at an Atari next to the Oculus Rift.
Wow. I mean, the real thing for me is, like, what can you do in real time while I'm gaming? It's really cool to look at these demos and that sort of thing to see what the engine can do. But, you know, a lot of engines can do that if you sit around and take the time, you know what I mean? It's kind of like anybody can paint the Mona Lisa if they sit around and devote 10 years of their life to doing it. That's a terrible analogy, but I guess it makes some sense to someone out there somewhere.
If you earnestly believe that you can make up for a lack of skill by redoubling your efforts, there's no end to what you can't do.
I don't know what that means. Okay, I think that's all I've got to talk about. And yeah.
You know, the only other thing we didn't mention on X99 was that all those CPU-hungry Skyrim plugins you have ran like butter.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. And we were playing 2560 by 1080, which is a pretty awesome resolution. And those things, we were hitting the VSync limitation there. I had to turn off VSync to see what it could really do. But, oh, God, that looked amazing. With that widescreen monitor that we have a video coming on very soon. God, we have a lot of videos coming up. All right.
Yeah, we're going to try. So to avoid, you know, accusations of flooding the channel or whatever, we're going to release a lot of X99 stuff at once. So be on the lookout for like 8 videos in a day.
Today. As a matter of fact, it's all going to happen like today and tomorrow. So your weekend, pretty much cancel your plans and sit at home and watch our terrible content, or else.
Yeah, we expect you to watch because next week there's going to be a quiz. And if you don't think there will be, you try us.
You try us. And guess what? If you fail the quiz, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come to your house with about 20 skateboards, and I'm going to put them all over the place, and I'm going to paint them so that they blend into the surroundings. You know how people do that thing where they camouflage things by, like, if you lay it on a wood floor and there's a table over there, I'll paint it so that from a certain angle, it looks like there's nothing there. So when you walk around, you're just going to step on all the skateboards. Is that what you want with your life? Is that what you want?
Plus, also, if you guys know the answers, maybe we'll do a live episode of the tech and give some stuff away. I don't know.
You know, a live episode would be pretty cool. We can also get some feedback. Last thing I want to do before I completely go crazy, because this beer is like really strong. I didn't realize it was going to hit me this hard. Thanks to all of our tech support members. You guys have really, really helped out a lot, and you've helped us keep this site more ad-free than most, I'll say. We still have some advertisements on there because I want to be able to hire more people and that sort of thing.
But when you subscribe, the ads go away.
Yeah, they do. The ads on the website go away. They do go away. And as far as our, different sponsorships on YouTube and that sort of thing, I say no to a lot of sponsorships. And Wendell says no to a lot of sponsorships. We only say yes to things that we really believe in. So, and you guys help make that possible. And yeah, it's kind of sappy, but yeah, you guys have helped us keep from totally selling out. That makes me happy. So thanks very much to our tech support members. If you guys are curious, tech support is what keeps us alive. You guys can go on there and you can buy us a beer a month or a coffee a month. Just go on there and click on these two things right here. It's just Syndicate/tech support. And yeah, if you guys can afford like $3 a month to buy us a coffee, right? Maybe. I don't know. End of my sales pitch, because that's all I care to do.
It really does help, and we really do appreciate it.
I haven't used that French press in a while. Maybe I should do that right now. Alright guys, at the end of this video, this is a nice long video with lots of X99 stuff. We'll have our regular tech episode pretty soon with all of our ISP stuff and all of our NSA stuff and a bunch of other cool things that are happening with Elon Musk and everything else that's happening out there in the tech culture segment of things. But this was really important to have out on a Friday. So we'll see you guys in that video. Thanks again to everybody for being awesome. And yeah, that's it.